I'm Aurelie with Hubli. Welcome to our one-to-one interview series. Today, I'm joined by Lee and Tino from Lufthansa Innovation Hub. They have recently launched Lufthansa Global Spaces to support a growing demand in new ways to travel. Let's find out what trends they are seeing. Hi, Lee. Hi, Tino.
Hi.
Hi.
Before we dig in, can you tell us a little bit more about Lufthansa Innovation Hub?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Tino, Director of Strategic Innovation and Intelligence at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. And with me, we have Lee, our lead analyst for consumer research. And the Lufthansa Innovation Hub is Lufthansa Group's primary unit for the development of new business in the digital context. And our mission is to push the limits of the travel industry. So that means that we try to go beyond flying and include the whole travel and mobility industry into our scope. And within the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, we have 3 different capabilities to drive innovation. So one is strategic intelligence, how we call it. This is about to sense new opportunities in the market and inform strategic decision-making and new business to seize those new opportunities across different venturing models like partner, build, and investments. And last but not least, we have the transformation capability to drive Lufthansa Group's digital transformation.
I'm sure many of our audience members were not necessarily aware of that. So I would love to zoom in. So you've just mentioned, global travel and mobility. So at Hubli, obviously, this is our playground as well. So if we look at this ecosystem, could you tell us right now, based on everything that happened over the past 2 years, what are the new opportunities that you have identified?
Yes, so at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, we believe that travel and mobility is going through a pivotal transformation, which we call the Great Inversion. And in a nutshell, we believe that the dominant logic of our value chain will shift dramatically. So with more self-empowered and vocal passengers, the asset-centered thinking of our industry will come to an end. And this actually will give rise to new business models, products, and service innovation. And one particular area of interest that we want to emphasize on today is what we call blurred travel. And this one really is about blurring the lines between business life and private life, and office and home and blurred travel trips, right? And obviously, every one of us heard from vacations. And this all is, from our perspective, driven by remote work, by the revolution of it, and revenge travel.
I love what you just said. Well, obviously, you know how to speak to me. This is one of my favorite topics. And it's quite interesting what you're saying, because even if you're looking at what's going on within organizations with remote work and the decision making, it's almost as if both in the consumer world and within organizations, it's like power to the people. A huge focus on that. So I love this terminology of the Great Inversion. I'm going to steal that from you. So if we actually zoom on what you suggested, Tino, this blurred travel, do you currently see trends at Lufthansa in terms of flight trends, booking trends, or even market trends?
Maybe I'll take that question. Sure. So in terms of, maybe let's zoom out a bit and go back to like pre-COVID time or during COVID time, we kind of started noticing that there was this uptake in new startups that were focusing on virtualizing work interactions. And I think most obviously that what we all can relate to was, for example, virtual events became very popular. And I don't know if you remember, but at that time, every company was doing webinars. And back then already, many people were saying, video conferencing technology such as Zoom, it's going to eat away from business travel. Mm-hmm. So we ran this analysis to kind of really understand and quantify it. And we looked at virtual work tools and the number of startups that were founded and that were trying to virtualize these business activities. And we kind of categorized them into the problems that they were trying to solve. So, for example, virtual collaboration, virtual meetings, etc. And what we noticed was that this category that was growing actually the most, the so-called virtual office.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What you can imagine under that is like a Sims-like or Pokemon-like environment where you can move around and socialize with with your colleagues, and that category actually doubled in the number of startups that were founded. So that was like the first sign for us. Okay, people still, even though they want to work remotely, they still want to socialize and they still want to meet. But it doesn't have to be black and white in terms of I will have to come back to the office, but maybe there's also this in-between solution where they can also do it virtually.
We see that as well on digitalizing the sourcing of meeting spaces, or the sourcing of like collaboration travel is starting to be a trend. We almost can start to see a new travel type. Is that something that you see as well on your end when we think about the future of work?
Definitely. I think virtual collaboration is actually the second biggest, most funded category in this virtual work. But also we saw that now that teams have, or employees have the option to work remotely, maybe they don't have to commute, but from time to time, let's say if you move to Mallorca and then every month or every 2 months, you kind of travel somewhere to meet your team so that you can brainstorm together and socialize and really still do this social bonding. And there is definitely a new type of needs when they travel in this way, because I think there's certain flexibility. You need to coordinate like a group, and so that's also, for example, we launched last year a venture that was called Lufthansa Global Spaces, which exactly also answers this need. It's a co-working space marketplace where where we also saw that our travelers, when they travel like this, they don't want to necessarily work remotely from their hotel or from their Airbnb, and that's when they want to kind of book a co-working space. We launched that last year, and people can book only desk, but also meeting rooms where they also have this equipment and this safe space to meet their team.
So I think you have a matrix to suggest, like in terms of what lens should we use right now when we're looking at travel and travel types. Can you walk us through your suggested approach?
Yeah, definitely. So based on also the data that the market data that we see, but also kind of the response we get from our customers, also from global spaces, we notice that these needs are blurring between like the business need, but also the leisure need. Because when you, for example, go to meet your team somewhere for a week, you might also want to do something after the meeting in the evenings, and maybe you also decide to extend your trip just simply because people are so much more eager to travel. And we see that there is lines that are blurring between these two needs. And that's why we also call the category blurred travel. We also see that sometimes people move completely and then just meet their teams in these co-working spaces or more these hybrid virtual spaces from a different place, and then there's technically no travel, but you moved away from your office location. And pre-COVID, this was not the case. Pre-COVID, you had very rigid lines. So when you traveled for business, it was for business. You stayed at hotels.
Boxes,
and when you
yes,
exactly. And then also for leisure, you were staying in Airbnbs or predominantly, and there was just, you booked with different providers and you also booked different products. Now we think post-pandemic, because of this whole home office and the remote work revolution, these lines are kind of blurring. An example of also actually category blurring in itself is, for example, home office, because previously we used our homes strictly kind of for our personal life, and then suddenly we had to also start working, and that was already a blur of a line. But I think what is most interesting is that at these boxes, as you call it, at the intersection of these boxes, we see new travel types, such that some of them might have existed before, but they're becoming more popular and adopted by like a wider workforce, because companies are so much more open to remote work, like leisure or workation. So if you, for example, say go to Greece for 2 weeks and then travel around there, but also work at the same time. Staycations are actually also something that we think is like a blurred travel use case, or digital nomadism, where you know, let's say I move to Thailand and I work from there for 2 months, but then I still kind of travel around and stuff like that. And yeah, so we think that this framework, and we kind of started thinking in this framework to really help us be able to identify opportunities. How do we capture this emerging trend and address the new needs that consumers might have?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. If, for example, I am leading procurement, or if I'm leading meetings or the travel category in an organization, because this is probably back to the Great Inversion that you mentioned as well, Tino, and this like the decision making, the power to the people that we mentioned. There's a brand new needs and the brand new demands that are coming from coworkers. Exactly, products. And also there's the tax dimension, legal dimension. There's a lot of conversation on how to crack the code and how to find solutions to enable this and empower employees. So if we look a little bit further to close off this conversation, how do you see the future of travel in the next 5 years?
Well, so as we are actually going from one crisis to the next one, we believe the industry really has to focus on resilience over economic recovery, right? So innovation and catering to customer needs, both newly emerging ones, but also resolving old ones, is the key, right? So solving customer needs is the key, and building resilience. And moving to what we have described as the Great Inversion, we will see on the one side some incremental improvements and more revolutionary investments and bets in those fields that are of unquestioned importance, like sustainability, customer satisfaction. And so we will see a lot of things happening in there. As we already said, for the blurred travel specifically, we just hope that companies and employers really embrace those new travel use cases, really try to scale them, enable and empower their employees to make more decisions, and really kind of, maybe drive the merge of business and leisure travel, driving those new travel use cases, also make money with them, right? It needs more products and services in that space. But we believe there's a lot more innovation to come, but it needs many stakeholders actually to come to those futures.
Thank you very much, Lee and Tino. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining our one-to-one interview series. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more insights on how the new way we work is impacting business travel and meetings. Until next time.